that there are options. There are things you can do to produce for yourself the kinds of income and revenue, a real business that can fuel causes.
Live your faith, build your business, and change your world. This is Live, Build, Change.
Hey, welcome back to the Live, Build, Change podcast. I'm so thankful that you are taking the time to think through what it might mean to live your faith in an authentic way, build a business, and possibly integrate those two to change the world. I'm here to encourage you in that direction because I believe it is something more and more believers in Christ can do these days because of the changes in technology, the changes in our world that have happened that enable just about anybody who has drive and determination, isn't afraid to learn, can build the kind of business that can do those things. It's really quite incredible. Today, I wanted to talk to you about a topic that I have discussed before, and I'm actually standing outside my favorite coffee shop. And being in the coffee shop doing some work today is the main thing that kind of prompted my thinking on this. And what it is that I'm thinking about the different types of businesses there are. You know, if you're listening to this show, you're probably interested at the very least in the possibility of building a business. But what does that really look like? Well, there's so many options out there. And sitting in the coffee shop made me realize that most of us think of a business in terms of brick and mortar businesses, you know, an actual physical location. And there is nothing in the world wrong with a physical location kind of a business. Nothing at all. It's a great model. It's worked for eons. I don't know how long actually, but it's been great for many people. But it comes with some, I don't know if you'd call them liabilities, but some realities that you have to be aware of if you're going to do a business like that. Now, let me just walk through some of the ones that I can think of, and we'll use this coffee shop here as an example of the kinds of things that I'm talking about. Well, first of all, there's the physical location. So you have the overhead of a lease payment or rent that you have to pay. That's just part of the deal if you get into that kind of business. So it's an expense that is going to take away from profits. Now that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. There is a cost to doing business no matter what kind of business you do. But that is a huge expense. If you think about this coffee shop, it's in a little downtown square right on Main Street. It's a wonderful location. It's actually a coffee shop and creperie. I will put the link in the show notes to the website for this particular coffee shop. It's called the Midland Station. And man, it's just open. It's great. Has paninis, crepes, all kinds of good stuff. Gelato. I mean, if you come to Colorado, you've got to get up in the mountains and visit this place. It's a wonderful place. My friend Jake runs the place. He actually employs two of my daughters. That's part of the reason it's one of my favorite shops. They do a mean espresso. But back to the point. This particular shop is right here on the main street. I've never asked Jake how much he pays for rent on this place. But my guess is it's a good $1,500 to $2,000 a month. And that's probably cheap for some markets. I mean, if you're in New York City, or if you were in a larger metro area like Denver, which is 2 hours away from where I'm at, that could be even higher than that amount. So that's a cost you have to pay regardless. It's a cost that's got to come out of your profits, and it's a cost that's very large. Now, in a situation like this coffee shop as well, you're going to have the issue of employees, right? You have the people who scoop the gelato, the people who do the coffee, the people who create the crepes in the back, the bussers that clear the tables. You're going to have all that kind of stuff. And with that comes things like the potential of healthcare insurance and the potential of other kinds of benefits for full-time employees. You've got all of that kind of stuff that goes into a brick and mortar location as well. You've got the insurance issues you have to have for people when they're on your property. In case someone got injured, say they slipped and fell, you need insurance to cover that, to cover you so that nothing happens that will, ruin your business because of a lawsuit or something like that. And so that's another consideration for this kind of business. And I could just go on and on. And the point that I'm trying to make here is that this kind of a business, in my thinking, has all kinds of large expenses that you just have to do that, in my thinking, are ones that I don't want to have to pay. Now, my friend Jake, he thought it was worth the effort, and he thought it was worth the profit that he would get out of it. And he even has plans to create franchises and expand this thing. I mean, he's got great dreams, and man, I'm all for it. Way to go, Jake. But it's not the kind of thing I want to pursue. You may be the kind of person just like Jake. That sounds exciting to you. And I have to admit, there is an aspect of an actual physical location that is exciting to me. I like that idea, mainly because I would love to have a presence in my town. I love my town. I would love to, have people understanding that I like to contribute to the well-being and the community aspects of the town. And it's easier to do that when you are visible. My business that I run, Podcast Fast Track, I guess technically it does run out of this town. It is a business located here, but it's not visible. People don't see me. So that's kind of a drawback to the way that I do business, is people don't know what I do and that I'm even here. And that's okay, I guess, but it's just one of the things. So let's talk about what are some other possible approaches to business that you could take. Well, there's everything from what I just described with the coffee shop, all the way to the kind of thing that I do that's online. I mean, I don't have a physical location other than a little office in my home that I work out of, but my entire team that helps me with my business is located wherever they want to be located, their home. Some of them may travel. Some of them do their work on the road in that case. Others may have an actual office where they work out of. I don't know everybody's situation, but I do know this. It's a lot more flexible than a physical location. We are able to do our work anywhere. And I just realized about 2 months ago, I'm a slow learner, that with unlimited data plan on our phones now, I can actually turn on my phone as a hotspot and work in the car as my wife drives and still do all the work that I have to do online. It's really pretty amazing. So we can take trips where ideally I would love to have all my work done ahead of time or have it passed off to someone on my team so that it can be taken care of. But I don't have to do that if it's not possible. I can actually work on the way to someplace as long as we're not on an airplane. I mean, it's a great benefit of having the kind of business that I run. Now let's talk about what are the costs in a business like that, because there are costs. There's no business that is going to have zero cost. On a very basic level, you're going to have the cost of any online services that you use. So these are typically pretty minimal, but they're things like buying a domain name. If you look up my website, it's podcastfasttrack.com. That's the domain name. I have to pay for that every year, and it's only like $15 a year. So it's not that expensive. But I also have to pay for web hosting. There's a company that I use called Bluehost that I purchase web hosting from. And it's basically the computer server where my website information is stored. And when you go to it on the internet, it pulls from Bluehost's computer server and shows you my website the way that I've created it to be, the display that I've put up for people to see. And you can find a link to Bluehost in the show notes as well. There's also various services that I use to run my business. They're the things that make it work. Okay, things like Dropbox and a program I use called Nosby, which is a task management tool that keeps me from going insane, is really what it's for. It makes sure that the work that I need to do pops up on my schedule the day that it needs to be done. So I don't have to remember 1,000 things. I can trust my software to every week in a recurring fashion bring up the tasks that I need to do. It's a lifesaver. If you want to know more about Nosby, I have an affiliate link to that on the show notes as well. There are just all kinds of expenses like that. Now, none of the ones I've mentioned are incredibly expensive. And especially if you compare them to the kinds of expenses of a brick and mortar place. I mean, think about the coffee shop that I was talking about earlier. I don't have that large expense of rent. I don't have the large expense of employees. Well, not on the same level. I do have a team that works for me. They're all contractors. They all have completed 1099s to work as independent contractors. And there are some rules that you have to follow regarding independent contractors and what makes them a contractor and what makes them an employee. So you want to be careful about that kind of thing. But regardless, the point is that I do have a team, but I don't pay them on the same level and I don't pay them in the same way. So there's all kinds of ways that my setup is trying to maximize profit and minimize expense. And that's really, in my way of thinking, a very smart way of doing things. Now, my company also is a service-based company. So the products that we are delivering are digital products. So I don't have the cost of ingredients. I don't have the cost of any tangible goods that I have to pass on to clients. Everything that I provide is digital. To me, that's a no-brainer as well. I mean, it's an easier deliverable, meaning what I deliver to my client is easier for me to pull off because it's digital. I have less expense that goes into it. In fact, very little of what we provide to clients actually costs us anything other than the subscription to the software that enables us to create it. So in many of those cases, that's a very minimal cost as well. Now, as you can tell, I am quite sold on the type of business that I do because I think that it's a smart way to do business. But that doesn't mean it's the only way to do business, and it doesn't mean it's the best way to do business because different types of businesses appeal to different people and fit different people's gifting in different ways. And that's a great thing. I think, different strokes for different folks is the old saying, and I think it's a wonderful maxim for us because it enables us to be who we are. Now, let me just bring about one other kind of business that's kind of a mix of the two, kind of a hybrid of the two that I've talked about so far. And that is where you're selling a product online. The word for this is e-commerce. One of the most common or frequent ways that people do this is doing what's called Amazon private label sales or Amazon arbitrage. And what that is finding a product that you are able to sell, setting up an account with Amazon, Amazon.com, and you are able to sell your products through Amazon. There's a couple of different ways it can be done, where you can just get products from a local retail store and resell them on Amazon for an increased price than what you purchased it for. Or you can actually source products from a different place like China or maybe a local manufacturer. And you can provide those on Amazon for people who don't live in your local area to purchase those products. Now, there's a whole mindset and philosophy behind this. There are good ways and bad ways to do it, but I see it as kind of a hybrid of what I have described so far with a physical business and a totally digital business. The reason it's a hybrid is because you have elements of both. You have your online elements where you have a digital storefront, an e-commerce website of some sort, whether that's Amazon or your own. But you also have a physical component where you have the cost of physical products. Now, in all these cases, whether it's an Amazon business or a brick and mortar business or a digital business, like I have been describing that I do, you're going to have the issue of taxes. You're always going to have to pay taxes. That's something you can't forget. And I've got an upcoming episode where I'm going to talk about taxes and some lessons learned that actually were very hard-learned lessons that I had to go through when it comes to taxes. There's things you just don't think about and things that you need to get educated about from the start, or else you're going to dig yourself in a hole like I did. That's pretty hard to get out of. So those are just some thoughts I had today as I was sitting in the coffee shop thinking. Just things to get your juices flowing, to get you thinking about the different types of businesses. And I, by no means, covered all the types of businesses that are possible. There's all kinds of ways you can make money online that I didn't describe. I've done an episode in the past about online courses using video and digital forms of delivery and how that can be a form of recurring revenue. That's a great option as well. But in the end, I guess my point with this episode is that I want to encourage you that there are options. There are things you can do to produce for yourself the kinds of income and revenue, a real business that can fuel causes and change the world in some very dramatic and significant ways. So as you think about it, just remember, you have the ability to do more than you think you can. You have the ability to generate income, to fund causes, to be generous, to do all kinds of things, because you have opportunity that the good Lord has put in your life to do. So that's it for this episode of Live, Build, Change. Thanks so much for listening. Hope you have a great day. One of the things that is rising up out of the work I'm doing here with Live, Build, Change, just through conversations I'm having and opportunities I'm having to connect with other people, is the idea of life and business coaching. And I've had a few sessions with people so far, and man, this is just the thing. This is my mojo, if you want to call it that. Man, I just really can tell the Lord is anointing this, and it's going to be a great thing for many people, including me. I'm learning and growing a lot as well. So if you have any kind of interest in life coaching or business coaching, or you're even curious what those things might look like for you, you can go to livebuildchange.com/coaching and get all the information. I would love to help you live your faith, build your business, and change your world. Hey, God bless you, and thanks for listening.